we went through a long era, and I would submit it goes all the way back to at least the 1980s. My mother was an up and coming executive back in the 1980s, and then it was all about Japanese management. There was like theory zero, theory Z, or what, theory zero, theory Z. I can't remember which. We'll find it. But there was the art of Japanese management and stuff, and then you moved on to the 90s, and you got good to great and stuff like this. And I think we went through several decades where people thought that you just needed to crack the code, right? And then along comes Kahneman and says, yeah, there isn't really a code to crack. And I think that's deeply unsettling to people to be in that realm of uncertainty. And but then you go back and you look, and how many of the companies that are discussed in Good to Great are still great? How many of them are still in existence? And that is a nice coupling to one of the most troubling parts of Kahneman's book, which is where he's talking about regression of the mean. And he does his experiment with having Israeli fighter pilots throw shekels behind them and see who can come closest to hitting the mark, and then shows them that doesn't, just because you hit the bullseye the first time, if you do it 20 times, you're no better than anyone else. He then extrapolates that to companies too. And, just because some company has a period of amazing success, is that really because they figured something out that is profound and actionable, or is it because they just got lucky? I mean, I think there are lessons that you can take from the success of organizations, but I also think his point is well taken that, again, all you have to do is go back and look at Good to Great to see that a lot of these companies didn't crack the code.
And you mentioned luck, and that's a big part of, I think, what we're trying to emphasize as well is it's so easy with decision making to do what they call resulting, right? Look at the outcome, and then if the outcome's good, your decision is good, right? No, wrong. So this new emphasis on it is a practice, and how you attack that is one that can generate some consistency, especially as how you start collaborating with others, which has emerged as one of the common themes. The dialogue that takes place on the way to a decision is so undervalued and underutilized. I think that's been a really healthy trend that we've seen. How do we make that happen? But then at the end of the day, to your point, luck plays a big role. And whether you're looking at a corporate level or even, somewhere you're making a decision just for the next quarter, there's a lot that's not in your control, and not that there's a lot that's not in your influence. So bringing it, decision making as a practice, bringing a decision architecture, you can stand behind and feel good. You can sleep well at night, knowing that you applied a great practice to the challenge at hand, even if things maybe don't go your way because the world's crazy, right?
Right. So, and that's what's critical. I just want to just hit a point on there. I remember talking to the founders of Airbnb. I mean, let's look at what happened there. These are brilliant guys, undoubtedly. But if you distill this down, this begins with a couple of guys looking at the fact there's this major tech conference happening in San Francisco. All the hotel rooms are sold out. They post something, I think, on Craigslist saying, hey, you could sleep on our floor and we'll give you breakfast for this much money, and are overwhelmed with requests from people, and then figure out how to turn that into a business. If they, if they weren't there if they hadn't read the articles about how all the hotels were filling up during this tech conference, if they had not been in San Francisco there, they still would have been brilliant guys, but would they have created Airbnb?
Create something else probably, but it's opportunity, isn't it? Yeah. And that's where we see people making a difference.
Yeah, it's such a great story. And I think, again, it's hindsight. We're looking back at that decision to put that ad in, but another really exciting thing is to start to give some attention to things like beliefs and assumptions, right? So assumptions testing is a real popular topic right now. So you can say that those leaders of Airbnb, whether they knew this is what they were doing or not, they were making an assumption that ad in the paper would get a response, and they tested it very cheaply. And then that was just part of the process that led them to all the goodness. But I think I know in my career, looking at digging deeper into the mental models and the beliefs that we stand upon to make our decisions, and then even down the road, looking at the assumptions that are the foundations of our plans and making those visible, making those explicit. That's not a world I was taught. That's not a world I grew up in. But we're seeing more and more of that as, no, this needs to be on the table. This needs to be what we talk about. And that seems super promising and new. And again, a lot to unpack, a lot to digest with it, but it feels fundamentally different in an exciting way.